What's up, everyone? I am pumped for this week. We are about to see a lot of awesome moves. Make sure to stick around to the end of today's video to know everything that will be important in the stock market this week. And towards the end of the video, we have a $1.27 million trade that you will not want to miss. But looking at the stock market, it had an awesome end to the week on Friday. Tons of stocks across basically every single industry popped up. And this week is going to be an exciting one. Tom, fill us in.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge week, Mike. And like you said, Friday was insane. We got a lot of stocks moving up. Like, look at some of these financial stocks like MasterCard and Visa up 4%, 3%. We go look at the tech stocks. Microsoft and Google were up 1%, Nvidia 4%. Apple finally recovering back up 3.68%. I feel bad for Apple lately. They've been really falling off, but we do have some pretty big events here, Mike, especially early on in the beginning of the week on Tuesday. Powell is actually going to be speaking, and it's not going to be anything too crazy. It's just going to be a speech in Stockholm, Sweden at the central bank. Well, it's going to be about central bank independence, but it's going to be in Stockholm, Sweden. You guys can see this is the exact name of the event here. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but he's speaking at 9 a.m. Eastern time, Mike, on Tuesday. So be ready Tuesday morning for Powell. And then going back to the calendar on Thursday, we are going to have the core inflation rate, or I should say the CPI data coming out, where we're going to get the core inflation rate, the inflation rate year over year for December. And then also we're going to be getting that CPI reading come out as well. So a lot of big numbers here, Mike. I know we are always keeping our eyes on these inflation numbers, and every single time that these numbers come out, the market usually ends up moving in a pretty volatile way. And with the SPY breaking this range last week back to the upside, man, I'm hoping they come in positive and we can start to move back up.
No doubt. So just like you said, anytime we get any new updates on inflation data, that is very, very important for the stock market. And we see a big move in like either direction almost every single time, because inflation has been single-handedly the biggest risk to the stock market and the economy over the past couple of years. So ideally, we want to see inflation data continue to decrease and decrease. That would be the best case scenario. And we'll get a brand new reading on Thursday. So there's definitely going to be a lot of volatility associated with that. And the good thing is that it doesn't really matter which way the market moves, because especially for short-term trading, there's opportunity in both directions. So I hope it's an upside move, but even if we see a breakdown, there's opportunity all day long with that too. So I think no matter what, we're definitely excited. We're definitely set up for a pretty big week.
Yeah, I think we are too. I think we're going to start to get finally a bigger push out of this lower range. We've been talking about this lower range here on the SPY for a while. And I want to go back on the SPY's chart, Mike, because right up here where I'm circling, this was actually when the last CPI reading came out on December 13th. And whenever I'm looking at this, Mike, I just cannot believe the way that the market started to dip back down right there. I thought that was actually pretty rough to see. And, you can tell the volatility was insane. We flew up, then we came flying right back to the downside. You can see right here was where they reported that last number there. But Mike, that's going to be huge for this week, because just look at how much volatility came into the SPY. If we start to see another big move like that come in somewhere over here, we might either see the SPY pop up and retest 400, or we might see it fall down out of the range under 374, given how big that move was last time. So really watch it, guys. I think we could have a very explosive week. So keep your eyes peeled on Thursday, Mike. That is going to be, I think, the biggest factor in the market, and that's what's going to make the SPY potentially either bounce off support or die off.
Yeah, so I know last week we were range bound on the SPY for basically all week long until Friday. Heading into this week, what are the most important support and resistance levels for SPY?
Yeah, so it was actually awesome. We started breaking out up above 386 Friday, which was great, and we ran almost all the way up towards 390. So I'm going to use 390 as a really nice upper resistance level this week. If we can pop above that, I think I think the SPY could have a pretty good chance to recover somewhere to up around 400, especially if the CPI data goes well and we see some of these earnings that we're going to talk about in a little while come in good as well. Don't forget about the earnings today or this week, guys, as well. We have some pretty huge ones, especially towards the end of the week, which could also move the stock market. But for right now, Mike, I'm looking at 390 for that resistance. I'm going to use 386 as a good intraday support for Monday. But the overall support that I've been watching down here is really close to 378 to 380. You can really tell how down here at the bottom, there's just been bounce after bounce after bounce down there.
Gotcha. So you hinted at earnings for this week. What's on the schedule?
Yeah, it's going to be a big week, guys. So early on, it's not going to be too crazy. You can see we have Tilray reporting Monday before open, WD-40 and Jeffries as well. But the big reports are going to be on Thursday and Friday, and mainly Friday. But Thursday, which is the day that we're going to get the CPI reading, we're also going to get TSMC's earnings, or Taiwan Semiconductors. This is a huge company. Watch out for TSMC. And then Friday, we are going to have some big banks, Mike. We have Bank of America, JP Morgan, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and then we even have Delta Airlines mixed in. But man, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, I don't think it gets much bigger than that.
Yeah, so basically the bank stocks kind of set the tone for earnings season. Whenever you see them report, it kind of indicates that, all right, earnings season is back. And as the weeks go on, we'll see, the big powerhouses like Apple, Amazon, and Tesla report. But earnings season is starting back up again, which is just going to add even more volatility and probably great moves into the market. Looking at these bank stocks like Bank of America, JP Morgan, Citigroup, and more, they've been doing pretty good lately. And I'm someone who owns some of these bank stocks for the long term, especially Citigroup. So I definitely like this short-term movement. And honestly, they're looking pretty good. So I'm hoping for a nice earnings reaction out of these financial stocks.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be a crazy week with those earnings coming out. And I cannot believe how down some of these bank stocks are. Like Citigroup had a pretty recent high, honestly, in the middle of, kind of recent, in the middle of 21, kind of like a lot of growth stocks have had lately, up around $80. Then they fell all the way down now to 47. At one point, Mike, they were touching 40. So they pretty much fell down 50% from the top there, from high to low. But I will say these bank stocks actually had pretty good reports the last time they reported. Here's an article where Bank of America topped their estimates back in October on better than expected bond trading, and the higher interest rates had actually helped them out. I know a lot of banks reported the same stuff, like JP Morgan, Citigroup, and a few others. So I'm really hoping to maybe see some of these bank stocks move up again. And what I want to point out, at least with Citigroup, Mike, is if we look down here at the bottom, you can see that last earnings report for them was on Friday, October 14th. You can pretty much see that was right near the bottom. And ever since that report, these bank stocks have been really ripping back to the upside. Same thing for JP Morgan. Same thing for Bank of America. So hopefully we see these good reports and these banks can just continue on this amazing uptrend. And I will say, Mike, this uptrend is getting pretty explosive. I will say it's starting to become pretty overbought, but the momentum is there.
No doubt. So what's interesting about bank stocks is Warren Buffett actually loaded up on Citigroup, a couple of quarters ago, and which is a good sign in my opinion. But another thing is a lot of these bank stocks pay decent dividends too. So if you're looking to get like some long-term exposure to some of these bank stocks, they pay decent dividends, and most of them are at pretty decent levels. So make sure to check them out.
Yeah, 100%. Citigroup actually pays out 4.31%, guys. 4.31% dividend yield on Citigroup. That is actually an insane yield, Mike, for a bank like this. To put that into perspective, guys, like a lot of these dividend stocks people talk about are like some of the food companies, for example, like Kraft Heinz or Kellogg's, for example. Kraft Heinz is only paying out 3.76%. And you can get a big bank down here around support at lows. Man, it seems really tempting. And I'll tell you what, for like a longer term, for any of the longer term investors out there, I feel like this is just one of the better opportunities out there. Also for selling cash secure puts around $45 and $40.
Yep, I agree completely. So Tom, now I want to talk a little bit about some of the new additions to the Discord. So if you guys are into short-term trading, make sure to join the StockedUp Discord. It's going to be that first link in the description, in the comments down below. It's completely free to join. We just released a brand new software called the Sniper Bot. Basically, every single day it finds some of these stocks with the most momentum and calls out their options for an alert. So we could see on Friday, the free Apple alert popped by 74%. It was an absolutely amazing move. Basically, the alert went from $310 all the way up to $540 by the end of the day. There's one free alert every single day for the whole chat, and then the other 2 to 4 alerts extra will be for premium members. We are adding so many really cool things to the chat. It's going to be a hell of a year. We have so many brand new things set to be added, but the sniper bot is doing an amazing job so far. And what's very exciting is that it's just going to do nothing but get smarter and smarter and smarter over time. Also, if you join the Stocked Up Discord group, as earnings season is heating up, we have a brand new earnings tab, which will highlight all the important information you need to know. So definitely join the Stocked Up Discord if you're into short-term trading. It's that first link in the description and the comments down below. It's an awesome community with a bunch of great people in it. So make sure to join. But Tom, now let's get into some good setups for the week. So one stock that I've been watching a lot over the past week is CCJ. If you guys watched the videos last week, you heard me talk about this one who knows how many times, and it's been popping up nonstop, and I think it has even more potential to go. Intraday, it had absolutely amazing momentum on Friday. This is a uranium company. On the daily chart, they're still very close to support. They have a lot of potential going forward. There's huge support right around $22. Personally, I don't think we're going to see a retest of that. I hope not, but either way, there's a lot of momentum, and I don't even see like major resistance until like 26 and then maybe even like 28.
Yeah, exactly. There's not really anything major here. I do see some resistance around 25, but it's not really anything too major, like you said, just some bounces there from back in the middle of November. The main levels are up around like 28, like you said. That's going to be the main level of that upper range, but I like CCJ too. I thought that momentum on Friday was amazing. I will say, Mike, I was sitting in Discord here watching CCJ go up, and I was just like, man, Mike was talking about this one all week long. So kudos to you, Mike. This thing has been ripping, and you've been talking about it on the support for quite a while now. But my first stock for the day is also going to be a nice support play with DraftKings or DKNG. Can't go without talking about them, Mike. I will say they're bouncing around this $11 support, and they're starting to hold their ground a little bit better. And with a lot of these other growth stocks starting to move back up, I will be watching DraftKings for a potential recovery. The only reason I'm talking about it is because it's right on support, starting to bounce up. And if we start to extend above like $12, I think there could start to be some pretty good opportunity here.
All right, sounds good. Another one I'm watching is Zoom. So ticker symbol ZM. This one is another support play. It's bouncing off that support right at like 65 to 66 in a big way. It has great upwards short-term momentum, which is awesome, and it's very oversold on the daily chart. I think the risk to reward setup with this one is really great. There's a lot of great stocks that are bouncing off support right now, and they have a lot of upwards momentum. Not even just Zoom and DraftKings and CCJ. It's just there's a ton of setups like this, and for a lot of them, the risk reward is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it really is. I love that risk reward. Like, we're so close to recent lows. Like, even for shares right now, Mike, I feel like it's a pretty easy trade, as in like you could buy shares right now for around like $70 a share, give or take a few cents. If it falls down, maybe have that stop loss below recent lows around like 63. If you wanted to get some options, obviously you might have to change those things up. But with shares, it even seems like a pretty good opportunity for that. So I like it, Mike. I think Zoom could be one of the better stocks coming up, and I cannot wait for Zoom to fill this gap, Mike. They have that huge gap on the chart between looks like 88 and like 95, almost to 100 there. So hopefully we can fill that gap sometime soon. But my final stock is going to be Carnival Cruise Lines, Mike. And I will say, I saw that we had some unusual options activity put into these Carnival Cruise Line 5-strike calls. I believe this was actually, last week. So we had this put in on January 4th, 2023. There was $1.7 million put into these 5-strike calls expiring June 21st of 2024. So not even this year, guys, 2024. So I like this play, Mike. I think that following this option could actually be a pretty smart move. But I will say CCL has a lot of good momentum in the short term as well. I noticed a lot of the cruise lines, a lot of the airlines have been really ripping back. So I'm going to keep CCL on the radar this week for some potential day trades and scalps. I will say it's been very explosive in the short term. It's not my favorite play to hold forever, but with that unusual options activity there, I think that maybe getting into that 5-strike call might not be too bad.
All right, there we go. Well, Tom, it is now time for the momentum plays. With the first one, we have Shopify to the upside.
Shopify, look at that support bounce on the daily chart. Another big support bounce. Theirs is right around 30, but I would say if they could break out tomorrow around 37.25, then I'll look for some calls.
All right, with the next one, we have Amazon also to the upside.
AMZN, yeah, they're actually consolidating right at resistance I've had posted. Hopefully they can break out above 86.50.
All right, with the last one, we have GLD, but we need both directions.
GLD was actually pretty explosive. If they can break out above 174, watch for another scalp to the upside. I feel like for some day trades, this could be pretty good. But if it ends up falling under 172, then go ahead and look at some puts.
All right, so we have that downside level on GLD. If it breaks below that, we're looking at it for a day trade to the downside. And for the upside level, if it breaks above that, we will look at it for a day trade to the upside. And then don't forget about Amazon and Shopify. We have both, for both of these stocks, we have upside levels on them. So if it breaks above that level, we are definitely watching them for an upside play. But it is now time for the $1.27 million trade from Friday. We are looking at ALLY, so Ally Financial. Basically, $1.27 million was put into the 27 strike call options for June 16th of 2023. For those of you who don't understand how options work, the main thing you need to know is that we have a big money player betting $1.27 million that this stock will rise in the future. A call option like this is a bullish play. The higher ALLY goes, the more millions they'll make. But looking at the stock itself, it's a financial company. We have bank earnings at the end of this week. We have CPI data, inflation data coming out on Thursday. Ally is relatively oversold. It's been doing pretty good over the past couple of years, with the exception of this giant drawdown that we've seen over 2022 with all stocks. But, again, I think the risk reward ratio with this one is pretty good overall.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. And it's starting to really rip up from some of these lows here. I will say there is one thing that I noticed here that worries me a little bit with Ally is that the last time they reported earnings, they actually kind of fell back down, and they haven't really had that explosiveness, for example, that like JP Morgan or Bank of America has. And I know that they're not necessarily the same exact type of bank stock, but I will say though, I just found that interesting. They weren't doing quite as well, but this momentum in the short term looks fantastic. And I would hope that at least we could maybe come up and retest maybe like $28 or something like that this week. I will say I did notice recently we had this big extension up and a big wick touching right around 28. So I'm hoping that maybe we can get up to that resistance again. Seems like a pretty good play, Mike. That's a lot of money put into those June strike calls. And man, I'm really hoping for a recovery out of this one. And honestly, a recovery out of all the banks that are down right now. I know like JP Morgan's been ripping and Bank of America, but there's a few others that are kind of stuck down here like this.
Yeah, we'll see. It's definitely an interesting play. And I definitely don't think that they would short like an option like this, considering it's only like $1 out of the money and it has a decent amount of time. So it does give me a good amount of confidence that they are buying these calls. Of course, the smart money can be wrong sometimes too, but overall, it's definitely a very interesting play, and it'll definitely be on my watch list going forward.
Yeah, and with these other reports coming out, like a Bank of America doing well on their last reports with better than expected bond trading and the higher interest rates seems to be helping these banks. Hopefully that just keeps playing out further and further, and the higher interest rates end up helping out Ally as well. But I like it, Mike, and hopefully we can get that nice pop-up this week.
All right, there we go. So Tom, I am pumped for this week, between CPI data on Thursday, the earnings at the end of the week, the great movement we saw on Friday. I think this week is going to be very exciting. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy week, guys. Really keep your eyes peeled. Seriously, Thursday is going to be insane. This inflation reading is going to be so important. And you can kind of see how we peaked back in June at 9.1 and well, 9.1%. Now we're falling all the way back down. The last reading came in at 7.1%. Look at the consensus in the forecast. It's at 6.5% and 6.7%. If that's the case, it'll show that inflation is still coming down. So hopefully we get these numbers coming in lower, Mike. We need a lower inflation rate. That way the feds can start to scale back their rate hikes and everything like that, and the economy can start to get back to normal. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen anytime soon, though, Mike, as the feds have been saying, their long-term goal has this extending through 2023.
Yeah, so we will see. Guys, do not forget to join the Stocked Up Discord chat. We have a bunch of amazing people in there and a bunch of amazing tools that you will not find anywhere else. It's going to be that first link in the description and the comments down below. The Sniper Bot has been doing great so far, and it's only going to get smarter and smarter and smarter over time. Make sure to join up. It's completely free. It's that first link in the description and the comments down below. If you like the show, make sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll see our videos more often. And huge shout out to today's member of the day, Corbin. Thank you so much for all of your positive words and activity on YouTube and in the Stocked Up Discord. You definitely deserve a shout out. So thank you so much for all of your support. Besides that, guys, I think this week is going to be awesome. So let's crush it.